This episode of Frank Walks, I'm going to be joining Steve Wilkos. You know, Steve Wilkos was in the Marines, became a Chicago police officer before getting an off-duty job as security on the Jerry Springer Show. He became so popular on the Jerry Springer Show that he eventually got his own talk show in 2007. Now, that show has been on for 18 years. I'm proud to be going on a walk with Steve Wilkos. Steve, thank you for joining me on this walk.
Yeah.
And 18 years.
Yeah, 18 years.
18 years.
And you know, it's so cliche to say, but boy, does it go by fast, right? And the funny thing about it is when you do TV as long as I have, you know, between the Jerry Springer Show, I started in 1994, and now 30 years later, I'm still doing it. People ask me, oh, what was your favorite Springer memory and what's your favorite episode of your show? I have very few memories of all of it.
It's a blur. I can relate to that. I can relate to these becoming a blur. Because I've been all over the place this summer, and it's almost like I try to
forget what you did over the last 6 months.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy. And I mean, you were in the Marines.
Yep.
And then you became a police officer.
Yep.
Inside the city of Chicago, and I guess you got this opportunity to be a guard on this show here, which is kind of like a crazy show at the time.
Oh, well, it was the crazy show probably in the history of TV, and you know, that's what was so great about the Jerry Springer Show. It was, you know, there was no script or anything. You just did whatever you wanted. It went crazy. If things weren't working, we went in a totally different direction. It was like being in high school. I say it all the time. Being on a Springer Show was like being in high school and pulling each other's pants down, like just, you know, with your buddies, just having a great time. And it was so much fun. I say it all the time. The Springer years were the best years of my life as far as professionally, because I was making money that I never thought I would make. I met my wife on the Springer Show. You know, I got treated like royalty in Chicago because of being on the show. So it was just a great, great time of my life.
Now, when they moved to Connecticut, when did they make that move?
That was in 2009. So we've been out here 15 years now.
I guess you miss it, Chicago. It's your hometown.
I miss it, but I still have a lake house about an hour north of Chicago. I get there quite a bit. My whole family's there. So I do get back, but would I prefer to live back there than out here? Yes, because that's where I'm from. I grew up down the street from Wrigley Field. I'm a huge Cubs fan. So I miss a lot of the day-to-day things I used to do when I lived there.
It could be worse. You could have been raised on the south side to be a White Sox fan.
Talk about the worst team ever in the history of baseball.
As a Mets fan, I'm getting perverse joy out of it. Because they'll be breaking our record.
Exactly. And you're having a good year this year.
Surprising. I thought they're going to be a disaster this year.
Yeah.
Now, you know, before I went to study broadcasting in college, and I actually worked on a talk show as an intern in 1999.
What talk show was that?
Forgive or Forget.
Forgive or Forget? I don't remember that one.
Yeah, everyone forgot it. Forgive or Forget.
Yeah. Who was the host of that show?
Well, it was Mother Love.
Okay. I vaguely remember it now.
And my internship actually ended a little prematurely because I came to work on a Monday, and it was like, okay, we're shutting down production for 6 weeks. And basically, and I hear Mother Love screaming, this is my show, you can't do this to my show. And basically, they fired her and replaced her with Robin Gibbons.
Oh, yes. Wow.
So what's funny is that was done in New York. So I had to go get audience for them. And my two key memories I remember is they sent me to where they taped The View with subway tokens and a flyer telling them to come to the Mother Love show. Meanwhile, Montel Williams has got a jitney bus and gift certificates for Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. And I said, we're having pizza. You can get pizza. And then they sent me out to Times Square where I got one guy handing out flyers telling people to go see the new girls on the second floor, and I'm saying, see a talk show?
Yeah. Well, the great thing about like the Springer Show was you talk about being yelled at. When I worked with Jerry, all those years, do you know I never heard Jerry yell at anybody, not one time. I mean, never. And in all the years of my 18 years of my show, I only yelled at one person one time ever. That was it.
Can you explain your management style?
I have an intense approach.
So I guess he liked to yell a little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit?
I only yell at my guests, that's it.
Yeah, I hear that you take these guys to task.
Hey man, it's a show like it's easy to get for me riled up. People are like, why, you get so mad. Yeah, because when I do my show, it's like, to me, life is real simple, right? You try to be a good son, a good father, a good husband, a good brother. You try to be a good neighbor, right? Like, I don't bother anybody, but don't bother me. But people make life complicated. They want to be a pain in the ass to everybody. They don't do what they're supposed to do. They don't raise their kids. They don't know what their kids are. And I saw a lot when I was a cop. We'd arrest kids 14, 15 years old that were out at 1 o'clock in the morning, and we'd take them home to the parents. They're like, what the hell's your kid doing out at 1 o'clock in the morning?
Oh.
Like, you don't even know where your kid's at. You don't even know what he's doing. You don't know who he's hanging out with.
Yeah, that's anyone that's like that goes on a bad path, you can look back to how the parents raised them.
Exactly. If you have discipline, you have a father and a mother at home, and they drop the hammer on you, as I like to say, then you got a much better chance of staying out of trouble.
I remember when I worked at the courthouse. I worked at the courthouse for 16 years, criminal court. I remember there was several times where one day, and I'd actually scheduled it that way because somehow it was like trying a sneaky way to get them in a room together or something like that. Whether you might be on separate cases where a father's in jail for something else and the son's in jail on another new charge, and I'd always try to schedule them together. And it was like father and son.
Yeah.
That happens more often than you would think. I mean, it's the bad path.
Now, I have to just comment on this walk here. This skyline has changed with these super skinny buildings up in the sky. And they're ugly as hell.
They are.
Like, they're ruining the skyline here.
I like to call them Richardson buildings.
So we've walked this is 348 consecutive days. Frank's lost 60 pounds.
Yeah, great.
The thing we've probably most consistently talked about in Manhattan is the disgraceful new buildings.
It's terrible look.
So Frank, you want to explain Richardson?
Yeah, I've come up with a cartoon character, and it's a unnamed executive, and Richardson is the architect. And whenever I see a bad ugly-looking building, I go, Richardson, you did it again. You're a genius.
Oh my God.
I mean,
because I started coming to New York in the '90s with Jerry, and we would always stay at the Plaza, and it was like a big thing for me to come to Central Park and walk around.
Yeah, beautiful buildings, right?
And now when I come and I see these pencils sticking in the
toothpicks.
sky, yeah.
Yeah, and what it is they're all residential, and they cost like $1 million to get like an apartment in there,
Oh,
and
I'm
they
sure
don't
it's
even
more
look
than
good.
$1 million. Well, and the other thing is, I read in the Wall Street Journal, most of these buildings are empty.
Yeah.
They're not. People don't even live there. People
No,
just buy
they're
them.
ugly. They're multi-million-dollar mansions, penthouses, and they're ugly.
Yeah, they're not. I like the old buildings in New York.
Uh,
But that's me. I like everything.
well,
old.
yeah. Well, they used to build things with style,
With style.
and
Look at that. That's just like a stick of butter up in the sky.
it looks like
There's nothing. There's no.
it looks
design.
like a tower of like crates that are just like you put in a dorm room somewhere.
But I love Central Park. Every time I come in it, it's even in the wintertime. We come down. My wife and kids, we always spend like a couple nights in New York right before Christmas. And, we'll pick a different hotel and we do all the things and we walk around New York and shop. And it's just really a wonderful time.
Well,
but this time of year is absolutely the best.
I don't think there's a better city around Christmas time than New
No,
York.
there isn't. Not even Chicago. I mean, Chicago has great things, but you can't beat New York.
The way they
Christmas
put the
time.
lights up everywhere. You go, if you want to dare the crowds and go through Radio City Music Hall area.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's just everywhere. It really does fill the Christmas spirit up very well.
Yeah, it's the way they decorate and everything, it's really, really a beautiful city.
So what's you have coming up this year on your show?
So, you know, people always say, what's going to be new? And when you've been on the air as long as I have, you really don't change a lot because your core audience expects a certain type of show. Now, the great thing is we do a show that's really kind of based on like being a cop. And so there will be once in a while stories that come up that are completely different. But for the most part, we're doing lie detector tests, DNA tests, people that steal from other family member stories, child abuse. We do, you know, stories like that. But so, you know, when you get, like I said, when you're on for as long as we have, you can't change too much because you'll turn off the people that have been watching for 18 years.
I mean, 18 years, especially that there's not as many talk shows on anymore. I was thinking about this earlier today, and that a lot of local stations have gone to put more local news on.
Yes.
So the talk show market is not what it was.
Well, TV's not what it is. But, you know, remember, like every year there'd be 5 or 6 new talk shows.
Yeah.
Every year come out, oh, this is new, this is new. And I would check them out to see who the competition was. Nothing came out this year. Nothing. So you see where it's changing. And like you said, a lot of stations, they just air news. But I think that's going to get oversaturated.
Oh, it is oversaturated already.
I think things are, you know, they go around in circles and eventually.
You know what's coming back? Game shows.
Yeah.
That's going to be the thing that's going to be the next 10 years. Game shows are going to be back as like the afternoon blocks.
Yeah.
It's cyclical.
Yeah.
And then after game shows, then the talk shows will
the talk
catch fire
shows will
again.
come back. And I want, you know, I have to be serious on my show. And when they bring back the Jerry Springer Show in another form, I want to be the host of that show. Yeah, that was fun.
It was crazy.
It was crazy, and you know, you just never knew what was going to happen on that show. And like I said, we were just running around like idiots. And
Did you get Frank a good role on that show? Could you see Frank
well,
maybe the DNA results?
well, the Springer Show, you know, you could. It's just like you could do anything on that show. We could put you anywhere, and you'd be fine. Like we would hire. This is how the Springer Show was. There would be a girl who would run out of the audience to run on a stripper pole, take her top off, dance around the pole, and the next day she'd be working there. So, you know, you just never knew what was going to happen.
I mean, it really was crazy. It was all the talk shows basically before Jerry Springer would change his format to like this new format. Were kind of like more serious tone.
Yeah, it was
more
boring.
like.
Even when I started on Jerry Springer, he was originally, they brought on Jerry to replace Phil Donahue. And it was a boring show. And they were going to get canceled. And they started going crazier and crazier. And then, like you said, after Jerry took that route, then a lot of shows followed and tried to, you know, go that way too.
I mean, Maury Povich with the "You Are Not the Father" all the time.
Yeah.
And basically, the way these like a father would like celebrate or
somebody would celebrate. It's not my kid.
Yeah.
You know.
And before they have the reveal, he goes, that little piece of shit, that ain't my kid, that's my kid. And all of a sudden, it's your son. Well, I'm gonna be the best dad I can be. You know, it occurs to me, that kid right now might be 18 years old or 60 years old. Dad, what was it like when you found out I was your son? Well, kid, let me play you the tape.
Well, we never thought about that. Like all these people talking about their family and their kids and stuff on TV, and you say, "Hey, 20," and I always tell these guys, they like talk about their kids, and I go, "Hey, man, remember 20 years from now, your kids are gonna be watching this." I mean, and I say that too. It's like I still have my mom, but I went through kind of life like do I want to embarrass my parents? You know, like, conduct yourself in a way you're not going to embarrass your parents, or embarrass your kids, right? Then I start having kids, and I don't want to embarrass my kids. And you like, whatever you're saying on TV, it lasts forever.
Yeah.
Just like social media now. Whatever you put out there, it's out there forever.
There's always like there's always someone there to take receipts.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's
I'm
why
so.
Frank holds back so much.
Well, listen, you know, and I'm sure you guys, you know, we're pretty much all the same age. Can you imagine if there was cameras and video and all that crap around when I was a teenager or when I was in my 20s? I'd get blown up, man. I probably wouldn't have a show. Like, people be like, oh my God, Steve, I can't believe you did that. But like, things are the way they are in a certain period of time, and everybody does it. But things change and social norms change, and you have to adapt. Otherwise, you get canceled. But I'm just glad there wasn't any cameras around when I was in my 20s.
we have a whole different set of standards now today that were like 30, 40 years ago, and some people try to like hold those standards.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just how it goes.
Think about the names we called each other in the high school, you know, high school playgrounds or whatever. I mean, we would all just get blown up, man. You know, like the first time, like when I was a younger guy, and people would say gay or the other derogatory terms.
Yeah.
I didn't even know what they meant, and we were calling each other that. I had no clue. Well, I just knew it was a bad word, and when you were trying to insult somebody, you would say that word.
Yeah, and at the time, nobody
Nobody
really even knew anyone.
But if you said
they
you
knew
said
who
those
they
words
were.
now, you'd be
Yeah,
done.
we got more educated.
Yes.
And that's been helpful that way.
And people that want to be a little kinder to
Yeah,
people now.
good.
You don't want to.
Yeah.
So.
Well, anyway, thank you for joining us.
Hey, thanks for
This
having
is
me
a
on,
great
Frank.
walk, and good luck on your show. And just think, you're 2 years away
From the Magic
Big
20.
20.
And then hopefully I'll be done.
And Steve, one more time, any advice for Frank on how to manage his people when he loses his temper? And if you can kind of repeat the question.
Well, you know, Frank, when you're managing people, and I just have to say like this, I worked for Jerry Springer for all those years. He never yelled at anybody. I've only yelled at one person 18 years. You got to be nice to the people that work for you, okay?
I try to be. I try to improve.
The cat's got his tongue.
I try to improve. I'm trying to improve. I grew up in a house full of yelling.
Oh,
In
jeez.
fact, my parents make the Costanzas look sane.
See, my parents were Jerry's parents were, you know. I go down to visit my parents before, and I'm like, please turn the air conditioning on.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's for sure.